Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Players Tech episode 120. I'm your host, Justin and joined by my co-host, my favorite paladin in Final Fantasy XIV, Montrell Rice.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going, man? It's Thursday.
Yeah, it's been not a rough week. It's been I don't know. So my family came into town. My brother came into town, and made me realize how much I miss my family. This is my first time seeing him since the pandemic and everything like that. So,
oh man,
yeah, I had a good time with him. And unfortunately, my great auntie just passed.
I'm sorry, Montrell.
Yeah, so I'm probably gonna go try to see her in Louisiana next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But she did have, which is weird. I mean, I know it's not a slice of life, but
I mean, people want to know what's going on with us, so
yeah. But I thought this was really cool of her. So she doesn't want a church service. She wants a traditional funeral or whatever. Because like our family's like very religious. As far as religion goes, we're very diverse. We got Muslims, we got Jehovah's Witnesses, we got Christian, regular Baptists, Protestants, and all that stuff like that. So she said like she just wants like a regular, funeral service or whatever. People just come up there, give their respects, and that's it. Like no pastor or anything like that, which I thought was cool. And then she said she doesn't want anyone crying. She wants everyone to have a barbecue, play good music, and laugh about good times, and that's it. And I think that's how I want to go out too. Like that's exactly how I want to go out. I don't want to like people if I ever when I die, because it's all going to happen to everybody.
I mean, I don't know, Montrell. You're kind of implying that it's not going to happen to you. Are you
no,
like...
I haven't found a secret to immortality yet.
All right,
I'm still looking. Yeah, when I die, whether it be untimely or timely, I want the same way. I want everyone to just be fucking happy. Like, just I don't want people to cry.
I agree with you. I mean, it's always sad, of course, and I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sorry for you, especially. But I think about myself though, like in that way too. Like, I don't want people to be like, miserable for months or something like that. Take a couple days and mourn about it, but remember the good times. There's plenty of good times, to remember. So I think that's the way. I don't know. I think that's the way life should be remembered. So
yeah. But besides that, I've been playing Final Fantasy and all that stuff like that, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, so took my brother shooting, and it was funny because he never shot an AR before.
Okay. I mean, I never have either. Man, yeah, Montrell, you got to take me sometime, man. I don't know, like, is that okay? Can I do that? Having not can I go to a range and shoot a weapon? I don't know. I mean, I assume so, given that I can just go buy one. But
yes, you can go to the range and just shoot.
All right.
Anytime if you're serious, like anytime.
No, dude, I totally would love to learn how to do it.
Okay. Yeah, anytime. Just let me know, and I'll take you.
Yeah, if I'm gonna do it, I'd rather do it with a friend. So
yeah,
especially somebody with as much experience as you have with it. So, I'm probably gonna look like a fucking idiot, but
hey man, we all gotta start somewhere. I looked like an idiot too when I first started. So
no, it's definitely something I'm interested in doing. So
I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions of like I guess it is called the gun community. Everything's a community now. Like,
yeah. Why we don't.
I got this new mouse and keyboard.
We don't need
keyboard community.
We don't need tribes for everything. Okay.
But anyway, like the gun community is actually very open and welcoming. Only to like when you get super deep, you start seeing like assholes and stuff like that. Usually, the biggest one is I call it the Apple versus iDroid effect. Or Android effect. You got the AK people versus the AR people. So people who like to build ARs, and then people who like to have AKs. They're always going back and forth at each other. So, but besides that, it's not really too toxic. It's fun. It's funny memes, but it's not really too toxic there and stuff like that. But yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Hey,
how was your weekend?
I mean, it's a conversational podcast, Montrell. We talk about whatever. If it's organic, we'll talk about whatever. But yeah, my week, we had a board game day last Saturday, and we kept it small to start. I know,
Okay.
Montrell. I'll invite you to the next one. I didn't invite Montrell. I know I'm a bad friend, But he doesn't usually want to come to these things. Plus, I know you had your family in town, so
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't want to bother you anyway. So but yeah, that was fun, man. I bought a new game last week called Wingspan, and it's about you have to like make a wildlife preserve where you attract birds to it, and you get points for each type of bird, and points for all sorts of different things in the game. But it was actually really fun though. That was good. It's good to see the guys again. I got to see Tyler Dennison. I hadn't seen them in a while, so yeah, it was
Oh, I
good.
definitely would have came, man. I'll come to the next one for sure.
Okay. No, I'll definitely invite you to the next one. I think it's just the first time we played in over a year. I mean, we literally haven't played since before the pandemic started. So,
Yeah.
I
I
kind of
think the
wanted to
biggest
just,
thing for I think the
yeah.
biggest thing for us is like we just need to be a little bit more consistent, especially on my end. Because
hmm
like I do want to play those games like Gloomhaven and what was the
mm,
other one we played?
Kingdom
Um,
Death.
Kingdom Death.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I do
I
want to
mean,
play
I
those
have
games.
more.
Just I don't want to learn it every time, so I have to be more consistent
Yes,
on
yes,
going.
yes. Which
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of what we talked about. We're not doing it this weekend, but I may invite people over next weekend. Because I do want to get more consistent with it again, and we're pretty much all vaccinated at this point, so
yep.
I'm not really concerned about that front anymore, for the most part. So yeah, that was fun, and otherwise, mostly doing some gaming, which we will talk about here in a second. So, for those of you who haven't listened before, this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. Please send us questions to theplayerstake01@gmail.com or at theplayerstake on Twitter. We didn't receive any this week. Now, not that dude, take a week off, man. We appreciate you. You've been holding it down for several weeks now. So, we need some other folks to step up, ask us some questions, which we would love to answer. But, we'll have a good show regardless this week. So, all right, let's start like we always do with what we have been playing. Montreal, you want to go first?
Yeah. So I've been playing. I only got to the tutorial area of like near replicant, so I really can't really talk about that too much. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't even touched Mass Effect this week, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Because we already know why, but
Yeah.
and I've been playing like League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably gonna shelve Mass Effect for right now. Only
Mm-hmm.
reason is because I played it last year, so it's
Yeah.
still fresh in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't finish 3, but I don't want to skip all the way to 3. But I am glad I still have this, and I'm glad it's out, and I'm glad I see other people on the timeline and in general everywhere else enjoying this game for the first time and stuff like that. So, especially Mass Effect 1, a lot of people are
Mm-hmm.
liking Mass Effect 1. So,
Yeah, it's good, man.
yeah,
Well, yeah. So I want to talk about Mass Effect real quick. So
okay,
I've been playing it a lot. I actually haven't played it since Sunday, though, if I'm being honest about it, because I kind of have hit a wall in Mass Effect 2. Because I mentioned last week I kind of broke my file, screwed up my file a little bit.
yeah.
But I was kind of trying to grind through to the end, and I don't know what it is with Mass Effect 2, man. But I'm just like I'm hitting a wall again with it, similar to what happened to me last year. And I'm actually way closer to the end this time than I was last year. So I'm probably going to grind through it. It's just I don't know why I don't find this game that riveting. You know,
Mass Effect 2?
yeah, I think it's the fact that the main story is just so fucking boring. Like it is. It's just a giant side quest. It's not important at all. Like and I said
It's
this last year, and I don't know. It's not holding my attention, and I'm at the point where I'm at the end of the game, and I need to go to the suicide mission, and I'm really just cleaning up the galaxy map.
yeah.
And I think the problem is there's just a lot of tedium with that aspect of the game of cleaning up the galaxy map because there's a lot of surveying planets, which I have now basically given up on because I don't need the materials anymore. I have enough materials to do everything.
Mhm.
So I'm not that crazy. I'm not being that crazy of a completionist, but and I don't know. I think a lot of the side missions that aren't the loyalty missions, there's just a lot of missions that aren't good, in the
Okay.
game. And I want to particularly call out the DLCs in this that they are much worse than I remembered them being. I
Really?
think the first time I played them, they were a lot more interesting to me because I didn't know what was coming. But playing them again, it's really obvious how strained their budget was with this, because the only people who talk in these DLCs is Shepard, and then there's like one character, and that's it. Like no one else
Oh
talks.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
None
That's
of the
true.
party
That's
members
true.
talk. No one ever asks about anything. There's no one else around. It's literally Shepard and one person, like one NPC. That's most of the DLC. And this is true in the Firewalker DLC, specifically the Firewalker DLC. Shepard doesn't even talk in that one. And then the Overlord, Project Overlord DLC, Shepard talks, and then there's one NPC that you interact with, and that's pretty much it. And no one else talks. So it's like not the greatest setup for a mission, for missions. You know, you're not really getting great dialogue. You're not getting good interactions. You're really not getting a lot of lore out of this either. It's really kind of doesn't feel great. Whereas I remember with Lair of the Shadow Broker, it was a lot more robust in that one. They really went all out with that one. So I'm going to evaluate that one too, because I definitely want to do it. It's just, so far, like those DLCs, I'm actually in the Project Overlord DLC right now, and I kind of hate it because there's like 4 missions you have to do, and they suck. They're long, they're tedious. There's no interesting dialogue in there. There's not really any interesting revelations. It's just kind of a time suck that isn't fun. And once you're in Project Overlord, you cannot leave. It's like you're kind of locked into it until you finish all the missions. The game doesn't let you go, you know.
Project
So
Overlord. That's the one with the AI,
the
right? Or
AI,
the
yeah, the
yeah,
VI or whatever, yeah.
yeah. I actually
Um,
like that one a lot. That's
yeah,
weird.
it
I love
probably
that
gets
one.
better at the end because there's more dialogue, but up to
Yeah,
this point, not a fan of it. Because it's
that's
mostly just
crazy.
killing enemies, and
Well, yeah, the adventure there is not.
yeah,
It's
right.
it's it's mediocre. But I think the ending is worth it.
So yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
it's yeah,
I'll see when I get there how I feel about it. And
yeah.
then there are plenty of side missions though in the game where no one talks and it's literally just a bunch of text. I didn't realize how many of these there were in Mass Effect 2. There's actually a lot more than I thought.
Really? I don't
Yeah,
like
a lot.
like for instance, like what for instance?
Well, so when you're surveying planets, there's plenty of planets that have anomalies on them. And I would say 90% of the anomalies that aren't DLC or a loyalty mission,
Oh, you're right. You're
those
right about
missions
that.
have no dialogue in them at all for the most part, and they basically tell the story through data pads that you pick up, and you can walk by them and not even touch them. And a lot of players get nothing out of the mission. Like if you don't interact with those things, you're literally just walking through an environment, killing enemies, and then you're hitting an objective at the end, and that's the mission. You know,
That is true. That's true.
so there's a lot more of those than I thought, and those missions aren't fun either. You know, they're just kind of filler, and I to be honest with you, kind of wish they weren't in the game. They don't really add a whole lot in terms of the lore or anything like that. They're not interesting stories generally. They're very simple setups where like something went wrong in a like a lab or something, and you have to go clean it up. And you find out what happened to the lab, and somebody was doing some experiments they shouldn't have been doing. Oh, whoop-de-doo. It's not. There was one set of those that were connected. There were like 4 different places you had to go. Where like this company made these mechs, and the mechs somehow there was like a virus in their facility that was getting put on the mechs, and they were hostile towards people just like automatically off the manufacturing line,
Yeah.
and they got shipped to this space station where that virus ended up infecting the VI of the space station, and the VI was trying to basically killed everybody and was trying to defend itself because it didn't want to die.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most interesting one of them. But even that though is like it's still not as good as any of the loyalty missions really. So
Yeah,
and
it did have like Mass Effect 1 vibes though, because Mass Effect 1 did that shit a lot.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's the thing that I'm surprised about is actually how if you take out the world exploration of Mass Effect 1, how similar some of those side quests actually are to Mass Effect 1 side quests. Because Mass Effect 1 side quests, you're right, a lot of them had no dialogue either. It was just walk into a building, kill a bunch of enemies, and walk out, and it was like, it wasn't anything interesting. There was no story or really anything to it beyond what the initial setup was. So, So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love the game. I do. It's just I don't know. It's like it's weird because I'm kind of curious if Mass Effect 3 I'm gonna feel this way or not because I'm kind of feeling like I'm not going to, um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's weird. That's kind of weird because in my head I never liked Mass Effect 3 as much as I did 2, but I feel like that's like slowly changing in my head. Like I'm probably gonna play 3, and I'm gonna come on this podcast, and I'm feeling like I'm gonna tell you guys I like 3 better than 2. Which
So
yeah
that is weird. When I was playing Mass Effect 3, I was playing through half of it. I did stop. I don't know why I stopped. Maybe like life issues or something. But yeah, I was playing half of it, and I actually was enjoying the ride of Mass Effect 3 a little bit more than 2.
yeah
Maybe it was because of the combat, because I really love the combat in Mass Effect 3, but I was
hmm
enjoying it a lot more, especially the Omega DLC. So
yeah
I thought that was really cool.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll have more to say. I'm not far away from beating it. I think I've only got maybe 10 hours left, if that. So I just need to grind through it this weekend. It's kind of blocking me because I really wanted to get to Mass Effect 3 last weekend, and I just didn't get through as much of 2 as I wanted to because I just couldn't bring myself to like binge it, So so yeah, I'm kind of getting a little slowed down there, but so yeah, other than that, playing Final Fantasy Tactics on Vita, very occasionally, and maybe an hour a week at this point. I'm barely putting a lot of time into it now. But yeah, the game Montreal that I referenced at the beginning of the show, you and I and Andy and Jet and Snakes even, we're playing Final Fantasy XIV, which, we know a lot of people that listen to the show play or have played. So, Montreal, how are you feeling about Final Fantasy XIV?
I feel like it's gonna get better once we all hit um Heaven Sword.
Mm-hmm.
Um I'm I'm contemplating that we all probably should just pay the $11 and just fucking with the Heaven Sword. But
It's too late
I'm
now.
yeah, it's too late. We already in the grind now. One of our friends is gonna have to do that.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest issue. I think once we get the Heaven Sword and we can do the traditional leveling, it's going to be better because there are going to be certain instances where we don't have to keep up with the story. We can just do missions
Mm-hmm.
in the hub. I know they kind of boosted the XP for the missions in Heaven Sword, but I don't
Yes.
think it's going to be significantly boosted like it was in the
Realm
AAR.
Reborn. Yeah.
Yeah, Realm Reborn. I still think we're gonna have to do some hub missions and then do some other side content as well. And I think that's when we'll get our full MMO experience. We just have to grind through this. So that's my biggest critique of the game. I'm enjoying the game. I love when I'm just doing like random fates and stuff like that or
Mm-hmm.
random duties.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like the classes in the game. I still think the game's fucking beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have to be very cautious of what I say because the FF14 community is kind of sensitive. So no, fuck that. Like the game's
Say
good.
what you want, Montreal.
The
Fucking let him
game's
come. Let him come.
yeah, the game's fucking good. I like the game. I like the game
Yeah.
for what it is. I liked it
Mm-hmm.
when it was base, and I like the classes that I get. I actually like the reworked Paladin way more than the old Paladin. It's actually more fun. It had me contemplating like maybe I should just go all the way with Paladin. Because it's reworked really its reworks are really well. I don't know about the other classes reworks, but
Mm-hmm.
I know Paladins they changed that flash change they did actually added a lot, and they added 2 AOE moves to it. But it gave it a lot of flair, and it's actually more fun as well. I was actually enjoying the Marauder when I was playing it for a short time. Oh, that's another thing. I started a new character, and I said fuck this, and I ported my old character over and just played that character.
Mm-hmm.
But I was playing the Marauder, and the Marauder is pretty fun from a difficult from a standpoint that it's a little bit more difficult than the Pally. You have to be more positionally aware of what you're doing to get your AOE's off because it's a cone and not a circle.
Yeah.
You do get a circle one, but the Paladin is just way more better as far as that. It's way easier, I should say. But the Marauder is fun if you know how to tank and you just want a bit of a challenge with it. It's like hard mode tanking, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but my biggest criticism of this fucking game, bro, is the fucking patches. I
Mm-hmm.
know when this shit came out, y'all were hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after Realm Reborn, I
Mm-hmm.
understand. Y'all were fucking hungry. Y'all wanted
Mm-hmm.
any kind of patches y'all can get, any kind of content y'all got. And Square was like, here, eat.
Yeah.
Problem is, For new players or returning players like me who don't
We have to eat
particularly,
too.
yeah, we have to eat too. And I'm not hungry. I just want to go to the next patch.
Exactly.
Like,
And
I know
and,
the
and
story.
I'm not hungry, and I'm also not hungry for the volume they're feeding
Yes,
that is being fed
yes,
to us. Yeah.
yes. I don't like the like if this was like optional, cool. Like I can do this. Like if I want to really know the story and really what's
Mhm.
going on, I'm like, okay, cool. I can do this. On the
Yeah.
side, I can
Yeah.
do a single player experience for myself and then still play with my friends the Heaven Sword. But this is like permanent. Like this is what you need to get to Heaven Sword content. So
Yep.
it's like I don't like that at all. Particularly, I wouldn't have a problem with it if they weren't all fucking fetch quests,
Yep.
guys.
Oh yeah.
FF14 community, there's a better way.
Yeah.
I know WoW isn't the greatest example, but holy shit, they have more variety in their fucking missions.
Yeah. Even if they don't always hit, they try
Yeah,
at least.
they try.
You know. Yeah. So yeah, let me break it down for people because I know not everybody plays F14. So let me explain the situation at a base level, right? So
Yep.
Montrell, myself, Jet, and Andy all have existing accounts, and we had existing characters. So me, Jet, Montrell transferred to Andy's server, and Snakes made a new character. He's starting from scratch. So, but the thing is, the four of us, our existing characters were all either in the 40s or early 50s. None of us were in Heaven Sword or any of the expansions. So we had the main story quest at various levels of completion, and we found out a couple days ago that we have to complete every single main story quest up until the most current Shadowbringers patches in order to have the full experience of the game open to us. And it is an absolute fucking slog. Like, I found a webpage that shows you a list of all the quests that you have to do for the main story quest in this game. And it is, in total, between the main game, A Realm Reborn, vanilla, and then the three expansions up to this point, and all the patches involved, you're looking at probably 600 to 700 quests, maybe even more than 700. Total that you have to do. And that is fucking insane, dude. Like, absolutely insane. And yes, we had already done some of them, all four of us, but our friend Snakes is still early in the game, dude. His quest level is like 22, I think, and he's level 40 because the game gives new players a boost, an experience boost up through 70. So he's absolutely like way over leveled for the content he's doing, but he can't boost past it in any way. Like, he can't skip any of it. There's no way to skip any of it. Square's solution to the problem was to introduce microtransactions that you can purchase that allow you to skip content. So you can either skip A Realm Reborn, you can skip A Realm Reborn and Heaven Sword, or you can skip A Realm Reborn, Heaven Sword, and Stormblood, and then you'll be ready for Shadowbringers. You cannot skip Shadowbringers yet. I'm sure that'll come when Endwalker comes out. But at this time, that's the only way. And the tiers cost $11, $18, and $25. Now, that in of itself isn't like horrible if there was a way in game to earn the same thing. The problem is there is no way in game to earn the same thing. You either grind through the quests like a little pleb, the little pleb you are, or you pay Square their little money, and then bam, you get to play with everybody else. It's just we all like the game. I think that's the thing I want to make clear here is that this isn't hating on Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV at its core, the gameplay, the music, the environments, the aesthetic, and even the story itself, all fun. I'm enjoying all of them. It's just this mandatory grind that is going to take us weeks. Like, we're going to be playing this game like this probably for the next month, dude, before we catch up to current content. Like, I truly believe that is the time frame. Because in the week that we've been playing, I'm not even out of A Realm Reborn yet, and I was already halfway through it when I started, more than halfway through it when I started. And it's just like, it's taking forever. So our options are basically skip cutscenes, like skip the story entirely just to blast through it, which is not fun, or watch the cutscenes and you're sitting here for fucking hours on a couple quests, and it's like you don't get anywhere every night. It's like we're kind of between a rock and a hard place, and I'm not sure what to do, because what I've been doing is kind of just skipping certain quests when they feel like filler or they feel like things that are not important. Like it's like a fetch quest. Like, oh, we need to go find this guy who got abducted. Okay, go find the guy, and he's not even important, so just skip all the shit around him. And then you come back and bam, here's a primal. It's like it but it sucks because I don't want to skip it all, but I feel the need to because we're so far away from, like closer to like once we get to Shadowbringers, I'm probably not going to skip anything. But up until that point, I don't know. I'm probably going to be doing this hybrid thing or do what you were thinking about doing where you skip everything and you go back and you kind of just watch like a YouTube video that explains everything. I feel
Yeah,
like that's an option too.
yeah, and I did that, and it actually helped me a lot. Like for for 2.2, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. No, 2.3 rather. They know what the fuck was going on, and then like the Leviathan DLC, right, or the Leviathan fight.
Yeah.
The reason lore wise, the reason why we had to fight, we were able to fight him on a boat was because we got two crystals that actually subdued his power, and the boats actually supercharged the fucking the crystals to where he couldn't do anything. But I didn't know that. I wouldn't known that if I hadn't watched the video. And yeah, I could have read everything, but it's like I was doing that for a minute, and it's like, bro, I really want to get through this content because if I had just read everything, yeah, I probably would not have got to Shadowbringers until next 2 months.
Dude,
from now.
these cutscenes take like 10 minutes sometimes. They're long.
Yeah.
They're not short. Like, this isn't like, and it's happening like every other quest. There's these long cutscenes happening where like the entire group of Scions get together and talk about stuff. And it's like their conversations they have are interesting, but sometimes it's just like dragging on and on and on, dude. And it's frustrating because I want to experience this story because there are bits and pieces of this that are really fucking cool. That I've gotten so far, and we've all kind of gotten as well. But at the same time, like I want to keep up with everybody because some of us are skipping. Like Andy's skipping everything; he doesn't give a shit about the story. He's just trying to get the max level, dude. But it's not fun either because these patch quests give you no experience, and they don't really give you any money, and they don't give you They don't give you a lot of money, and they don't give you anything useful. Like the gear you're getting is going to be garbage. And literally once we hit Evansward, like it's going to be complete trash. So it's like it's like I feel like we're stuck. We're just stuck in this like muck, and it takes forever to get out of it. And everyone's saying A Realm Reborn's patches are the worst, which looks to be the case for sure. But that doesn't mean that like the expansions are going to be a lot better, dude. Like there's hundreds of quests for each expansion too, and they all have patches as well. They're a little bit shorter, but it's still a lot of quests overall, and there's tons of dungeons and duties we're gonna have to do that are required, and I don't know, it's just it sucks because it's like I want to be super positive about this game, but right now it's like I just feel like I'm grinding, and it's stupid because you and I are like literally chomping at the bit to go play this fucking game right now. Like we want to like be done with the podcast so we can get off and play Final Fantasy tonight.
Yeah, because it's a good game. We're like, yeah, I love the mechanics of the game. Love it as an MMO. It's just I want to get to the next content. Like I can probably get to the next content probably tonight.
I can't.
Yeah, but it's like I had to skip cutscenes, but it's like when I stop and read the story, like in 2.3 or 4, the beginning of 2.3 is like that whole fucking I was about to say Ishvalan. This is not fucking Full Metal Alchemist.
The refugee stuff, though.
The refugee stuff was really cool to me because like that whole, and they laid down the groundwork of what Oda, like the culture in Oda is like right now and everything like that. And I thought that was like really fucking cool.
Yeah.
But we don't know that. Like I wouldn't have known that if I had read the story, and I think it's just bogged down by how they tell it. And I know it's an MMO and they can only do so much because of like money constraints. They can't be fully voice acted like Sator was and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like the volume of fucking missions is like really, really, really bad. I feel like now that everything's out, they should I know they already did a squish of the missions. They should do another one.
They do. They need to, because there's a lot of filler missions that are literally go here, talk to this guy, go here, talk to that guy. Okay, go back to Minfilia. It's like, dude, there's quest links in here sometimes where it's literally they give you the quest, and the quest is to go talk to a guy that you teleport to, and you go talk to him, and you're done with the quest. It's like I don't like. just take it out. It's like not important, and the dialogue that happens isn't even important to the story, really. And I don't know. Like I think that's my problem is that the fact that we're close to the release of the fourth expansion for this game, and they have not figured out a solution for this beyond making people spend money. Like that's
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
bullshit.
Yep.
That's fucking bullshit. And people like us get fucked. Like existing players, like previously existing players who played the game at any point are getting absolutely completely fucked here. Like we get nothing for coming back to the game. And new players get this huge experience bonus up to level 70 that gives you 100% EXP. That's like, at least it's something. It would feel better to play the game with things like that. But even for them though, it doesn't help them because by the time they get through the Realm Reborn content, they're going to be level 60. And that's and then they have the entire 50 to 60 expansion to go through. So they're gonna hit 80 before they even start Shadowbringers. That's how much shit you have to do. It's
Yeah.
like, that's insane. That's bad design. And the fact that we're at that point, it's like I just don't understand like why they don't put more time into this. Like, do they not have do they not have a lot of new players in this game? Because they must not if they don't really care about this that much.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. We don't know the subscription numbers. They never really brag about their subscription numbers or anything like that, like how World of Warcraft does or anything like that. So I just don't know. It has to have a high subscription rate. But the thing is, it's just like I've never even seen anyone complain about this until
Yeah.
we searched it out, and then I think we started
No,
seeing
people
stuff.
defend it. People defend it when somebody brings it up.
Oh,
They get
really?
like shouted into oblivion, dude. You know how many Reddit threads I found where new players were complaining about this, and all the veterans were like, "Oh, you should be happy. There's so much content," and it's like, bro, I mean, I guess, but I got things to do, man. I don't have fucking a month to grind through 700 fucking quests.
And
Like I
that's the
just want to go
main
raid
reason I
and
like
stuff.
this. That's the main
Yeah,
reason I was attracted towards this before because we didn't know
hmm
about this coming in. Me and
yeah,
Justin had the previous knowledge of a Realm Reborn. That's all
yes,
we had. So we were like, oh, this is a good pick up and go. I call them pick up and go MMOs. This is a good pick up and go MMO. I can come in, grind for a couple hours, and get a significant, boost,
hmm
satisfaction, right? Whereas with World of Warcraft Classic, we had to grind for literally hours just to get some kind of like days almost just to get some kind of gratification.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and whereas with this one, it kind of fits our lifestyle now because we're both grown ass men and we have families and we have responsibilities, and we can just pop in and then pop out.
Yeah, you can
Um,
like when we get to max level, the game's probably going to be fucking great for us,
yeah,
because you're going to be able to pop in for an hour, do a couple duties, log out, bang. You've got some new gear, maybe you got some exp, maybe you leveled a class up or something. Like there's so many things you can do in the game that don't take a lot of time, and that's awesome. But right now in this grind, in this main quest grind, I am feeling regret almost that we chose this game over Burning Crusade. Because with Burning Crusade, I wouldn't feel any like I wouldn't feel anxiety about having to grind that game, because I can do whatever I want in it. There's nothing restricting you anywhere. You can just go wherever you want. You can do whatever you quest you want. You can do it at whatever pace you want, and it's like I don't know. This doesn't feel great. But we're here. We're committed. I already paid for 60 days. So it's like, fuck it. I mean, I'm already in. I'm just going to keep doing it until we all burn out or we get there, one of the two, I guess.
yeah, and I mean, I agree. It's just I don't know. It's just at this point they're making money off of it, so it's unlikely they're going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I hope for the next time, wherever next MMO, I'm assuming Final Fantasy 17 is going to be another MMO.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's what it's going to be. I mean, they don't have any reason not to do it because this one was so successful. So,
Yeah. Do you think this one's approaching its end point?
yeah, I think this is the last one. I think in what's it called? Endwalker.
Endwalker?
I think that's like
You're taking that literally.
yeah. I think this is the end. I don't think if they're gonna it's the Endwalker. They may do something like Fantasy Star Online did, where they've like, all right, well, this is a totally new revamped game now. Like
Mhm.
we're gonna have the classic version, and then like RuneScape did it. They had to have the RuneScape Classic, and now they have the totally
Yeah.
new revamped RuneScape. That's like a
Mhm.
different engine and everything of that nature. Um, and I think they may do that with Final Fantasy 14. They may not make a Final Fantasy 17. They just may be Final Fantasy 14-2, and it's a whole
Mm.
new MMO action or a whole new
Mhm.
fucking MMO combat thing. But anyway, um, they're making too much money off this not to do it. That's why I feel like, or they're making some money off of it to make up the dividends or whatever. I don't know. I'm just spitballing shit here. To
I mean,
whatever the
I would be
cost.
interested in seeing a new like I would be interested if they because they're going to keep Final Fantasy 14 going. I think personally,
Yeah,
I
they
don't see a
are.
reason for them to end it. I think there will be more expansions after Endwalker because the game's too successful right now to just shut it down, you know. But I would be interested in seeing a Final Fantasy 17 or whatever they want to call it, where that one's actually a little bit more hardcore leaning because this is like a hyper casual MMO at this point. Which there's nothing wrong with that, you know. But there's definitely a base of players who want something a little bit more involved than Final Fantasy 14, and I think that if they can make a Final Fantasy MMO that's got that, then you have your casual one that's 14. I mean, then you're winning in multiple fronts. You could have two
Yeah.
really robust MMOs going at the same time, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that would be cool, and I think it would work for them. So you know, we'll see. I guess that
Yeah.
would
I
be
mean, because
interesting.
they can do something like that. Like they can make a revamped version of 11 or something like that,
Yeah,
and
right. Yeah.
or not a revamped version of 11, but make the system as hardcore as 11 was. Because I know a lot of people still want 11. But they can make Final Fantasy, 14.2, and then that would be that version of it. And then you still got the 14.1. That's the
Mhm.
normal version of Final Fantasy 14. Um, but all in all, it's still a good MMO. I still think it holds up well from when it came
Yeah.
out.
Mhm.
7 years ago?
8 years ago. I
eight
think it was
years ago.
2013 when it relaunched.
Yeah.
It's a long
I
time.
I still think it holds up. I'm actually enjoying it more than WoW. I haven't played Burning Crusade yet. I plan on jumping into that without y'all. I'm sorry. I really want to play Burning Crusade.
Okay. I mean, dude, I might jump in too, dude. I don't know. Montreal, I'm in an MMO mood. Okay.
Yeah.
This Final Fantasy 14 thing has definitely gotten me in that mode right now.
Yeah.
And I think I might just abandon single player for a few months.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at, so I need to get through Mass Effect quick because
Yeah,
I
I
don't
need to get
know.
through near because I think
Yeah.
I think I'm on a run now with
Yeah.
MMOs probably until
Summer, like or until
yeah,
summer's over, maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm talking big right now, but I mean, we'll talk about this later in the show, but Fantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis is coming out, next week, and then Burning Crusade's already out, so we can just jump into that whenever, and it's like so yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking about it too. I've been thinking about Burning Crusade a lot while we've been playing Final Fantasy, and I definitely want to jump into it too. It's just I don't know how I'm going to find the time to play two MMOs or let alone
Yeah,
three.
and that's why I just want to burn myself out of this one before I jump
Yeah.
into another one.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna play this one into the depths of the earth. So I'm done with it. So I'm in Walker or maybe just Shadowbringers. And then
Hmm.
play.
Take a break for a few months and then come back when Endwalker comes out.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
That may be the ticket. So yeah, we're enjoying the game. We'll have more thoughts on it as we play it more. I know we complained a lot about the main story quest. It's just I think you guys got to understand, those of you who've been playing Final Fantasy like consistently the entire time, like doing these quests as they came out probably didn't feel that bad. To be honest, you probably did them all each patch in like a night, and you were like, "Oh God, I wish there was more content." Whereas from our perspective, we're doing this all at once. Like all the quests that have ever been released in this game for the main story quest, besides the ones they took out, and it's still hundreds of them, and we're having to do them all at once, and they're blockers. Like you can't do stuff in the game until you do this shit, and it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't feel super great. So just understand where we're coming from before you come at us with pitchforks.
Yeah.
But if you have any feedback for us though on maybe how you dealt with this or what you think how we can make this more fun for ourselves. We're all ears. Please give us your feedback on that. Or if there are points where it gets better too, we'd like to hear about that too. So, okay, Montreal. Let's get into the news. We don't have a lot this week, but there is one very, very interesting interview that happened with Herman Hulst. He joined a Sony-made podcast and did an interview, and it was a very softball interview. But there were some interesting tidbits in this interview. So I'm going to go through the blog post for this, and we can just discuss each question. And I mean, we may not have a lot to say on each one of these, but there was enough in here that I think it's worthwhile to do that. So they asked him if he sees single player narrative games as essential to PlayStation, and he said, for sure, like that's their DNA, and that's what they want to be. So it sounds like Sony's not really planning on changing their path anytime soon with that. Which, I mean, they shouldn't, right, Montreal? I don't think there's any particular reason for them to like veer into multiplayer heavily all of a sudden,
Yeah.
And then the second question they asked, was about outside partnerships with things like Haven and Firewalk. And he mentioned that these are kind of unique partnerships, but they would love to have more of them. So but they're not going to forego the internal studios for that kind of thing either. So he was being very, he was doing this sports talk kind of thing where he doesn't really say a whole lot, but he's trying to answer the question. Now, the next question though, this is a very interesting tidbit. So they did ask him how many titles are being made between for PlayStation by PlayStation 2 studios for PS4 and PS5, and he said there are more than 25 titles in development, and there are only 11 first-party PlayStation studios, which means very likely most of these studios, especially the big ones, are making multiple games, which hasn't been true for a while. The PS4 generation, these studios were not making multiple games. They were making pretty much one game, and it took them 3 to 4 years to make, and then they moved on to the next game, and then it took them 3 to 4 years to make the next one, That was kind of the cadence. So, I mean, Montreal, does this excite you that we may actually get a larger glut of PlayStation exclusives from the first party than we did last generation?
Yeah. We may get a lot more variety as well. So I am looking forward to that. I mean, I think we need that for PlayStation, and I think right now with every new console generation, I mean, we have to get used to it at this point. There's always going to be a lull period, and we're in a lull period right now of games coming out. So especially now too with the pandemic and things of that nature, it's going to be a longer lull period than before. So, yeah, I am excited though for it.
Yeah. I mean, if you do the math too, we know that Naughty Dog in particular is already working on 3 or 4 games at the moment. They have the Uncharted game that fell apart and they took over. That Last of Us remake, they're working on Factions, and then I think they have another project that they're not working on yet, but they're trying to figure out what that is. So they alone already have 4 on their docket. And I think we know Santa Monica is working on 2 at least. And Insomniac's working on 2 or 3 probably. So you're already at 9 right there, 8 or 9 right there, between 3 studios. So it's not really hard to get to 25 when you put it in that perspective, but it's exciting to know that because this last generation, we definitely we got amazing games from the PlayStation studios, but it just wasn't that many of them. There wasn't a huge volume of them over the course of the whole generation. So the next question, they asked him about, how important is new IP for PlayStation. And the one tidbit that came out of here is that he confirmed that Bend Studio that made Days Gone is making a new IP, and they're building it on the open world systems that they made with Days Gone. So it's going to be based off that engine, it sounds like, and it is going to be an open world game in some form or fashion. How does that sit with you?
Wait, one more time. I misheard what you said. That's why I want to
know. Ben's working on a open world game
okay.
based off the engine from Days Gone.
I don't know why I thought you said Kens. I'm like, who the hell is Kens? But
Yeah.
uh, after everyone bitched, I'm sorry. After
Mhm.
everyone bitched last week,
Yeah.
including me, I think I did some bitching about it.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, it's only right that they get a chance to make their own open world game.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not looking forward to it, but I'm
yeah.
glad they get the opportunity to make it because I think it's bullshit they have to work under Naughty Dog's like wing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, um, because I
Mhm.
wasn't particularly fond of Days Gone, but it did sell.
Yeah.
It was a hit, not a critical hit, but like sales wise, it did
People
go.
liked it though.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think it warranted for another fucking part two, but I'm not pretty sure they're not making a part two. They're making their own a different game. So,
They
um,
aren't. Yeah. I mean, for me, I will say like this probably worked out the best for me because I didn't care. I didn't really. Days Gone wasn't appealing to me in any
yeah,
way. They already have The Last of Us as a zombie game. I don't need another one.
yep,
Like from
exactly.
PlayStation. And maybe Sony felt the same way. To be honest, they like looked at it and they were just like the reception of this game was kind of mediocre somewhat, and we already have a zombie game. Like we don't need another one. So maybe that's maybe that's how they felt, and that's why they didn't greenlight the thing. But it sucked though that Bend kind of got absorbed the way they did, and it's good that they're out from under that now and are making their own game again. So I'm not gonna say I'm excited, but I'm interested to see what they come up with. Like if it's not a zombie game, then what kind of game could they make with that Days Gone engine?
Yeah,
So I'll be interested to see what that is. The next thing that was confirmed in this interview is that Horizon, which we already knew, but God of War and GT7 will be cross platform with PS4, which we did not have confirmation of up to this point. And this is the piece of the article of the interview that has
that had the
definitely set
internet
people off.
exploded. Holy shit.
Well, Montrell, where are you at with this? How do you feel about it?
Um. All right. I'm actually in the middle. I thought about
Yeah.
this long and hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's a very nuanced conversation. Like I texted you yesterday, or the day before. I don't know when this shit came out. When I
Yeah.
text you that, because
Yeah.
me and Justin are bad at texting each other. We're like really bad. We're like pretty
We
girls that
text
don't
like
text each other, that don't
yeah, we
text
text
men. You know, like
yeah.
that's where we are. Like we just don't text at all.
We text like every 4 days, and it's literally like he'll send me an article and then I'll say, that's interesting, and then we don't say anything for another 4 days.
Even in the
You know.
group chat, we're like really bad at texting. So,
Mm-hmm.
but so yeah, I think from a consumer's perspective, from a business perspective, it makes sense, right? You got the pandemic going on,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and we need to maximize profit.
Yeah.
We have to
Right.
recognize that not only, yes, we may have sold 10 million PS5s or 20 million by now. I don't know how many, I don't know the sales numbers. I forgot the hardware numbers from last week. So let's just say an estimate of roughly 15 million are out there in circulation right now. We have to
Mm-hmm.
estimate that only maybe 5 million of
Well,
those are actually real.
you also have to extrapolate that out though to when these games are going to come out. So I'd say by the time Horizon comes out, if it comes out holiday, they'll probably have maybe 15 to 20 million out there. Because I think
Okay.
the number was sub 10 million still
Sub
last we
10 million?
heard.
Okay, cool. All right.
Which is high, but still, it's not
Yeah,
that many for a first party game. So
exactly. Yep. So yeah, so let's say 20 million in total sales. And I'm predicting that half of those are not in the consumer's hands. I think
yeah,
scalpers have half of those sales, in
I
my
don't think it's
opinion.
that. I don't think it's that high.
You don't think
But
so? I think it's that
no,
high.
I don't think it's that
I
high.
think
But
bots are relentless. Is there's just no way people are getting these consoles that fast when they go to these websites. I
yeah,
know the demand is high, but that's
mhm,
just too fast, in my opinion.
yeah,
Um, and then there are just too many people saying like, I didn't get it, I didn't get it, I didn't get it. Anyway, so let's say 3/4 of that is human players, or human hands that actually want to play the game and not scalp it.
yeah,
Um, that's still a large chunk. You still have 120 million
yep.
PlayStations out there, PlayStation 4s out
PS4s,
there,
yeah,
PS4s.
yeah,
Let's knock off 20 million of those. They already transitioned to PS5. They don't need their PS4 anymore. So you still have 100 million people out there who can potentially play this game. Yes, from a
Yeah.
business perspective, I am going to tell you make
Mm-hmm.
both for both.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the other side of the business perspective, on the consumer side, you told me PlayStation, hey, we are moving
Mm.
full forward with PS5. We are
Yep.
not making any more
We
games for
believe in
PS4.
generations. Yep.
Exactly. We're moving forward with the PS5. We believe in generations.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much stating that your PS4 is going to be obsolete once this PS5 comes out.
Yep.
So you had people rush out. I mean, I did and you did. But we wanted the console just in general anyway. We didn't really care about that aspect of it. But I just wanted the
Right.
console in general for technical reasons because I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the HDD and I wanted the SSD.
SSD, baby. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do that. On the other side of that too, if you want to be the elitist side, I have this console that I spent $500 for, and you're going to hold my first party games back because other people can't get it. That sucks. I
Mm.
want these games to be fucking. I want the Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart treatment because a PS4 can't do that shit. No matter how hard they try, a PS4 can't do that.
Yep. Yep.
But now you're going to hold my God of War 2 back because it has to play on the PS4. You're going to hold my Horizon back because that's to play on the PS4. You're going to hold my Gran Turismo 7 back because that's to play on the PS4. I'm sorry, baby. Capitalism. You got to get this PS5. I'm sorry. Now, on the other side of that, it's like these people can't play these games because maybe they do want to get these consoles. They have the money to get them. They just can't get their hands on them.
Can't get them. Yeah.
I don't think it's a part because a lot of people are saying someone said this joke PS poors. It's like, oh, these PS poors.
Yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious. I don't think that's the case though. I think a lot of people just can't get it because of the bots and the chip shortage and everything.
They
like
literally
that.
can't find one, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my headspace right there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you brought up pretty much all the points that I was thinking of, and I mean, I don't disagree with you on most of them. Like like you said, this is incredibly nuanced. You know, I was really thinking hard about this too because I was in the camp of, you know, I have a PS5. I want these games made for PS5. I don't want them on PS4. I don't want them held back. You know, but then we saw that Horizon demo last week, and to be honest, that game looks fucking crazy good. Like on PlayStation 5, and that's what they were showing it to us on. So it I will say, out of anybody, Sony's first party is the one place I really feel like they're not going to be lazy with this. They're really going to enhance the game as much as they can for PS5, whether that's adding features or adding frame rate or different kind of textures and things like that. They're not just going to port the game over from PS4. Like, I really think they're going to put effort into that. And we have the proof in the pudding with that was Spider-Man, Miles Morales.
Yeah.
That game looks significantly different on PlayStation 4 compared to PlayStation 5. Like, the PlayStation 5 version of that game looks fucking awesome, dude. You know? So to Sony's credit, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt there. And given that, I think that this issue is not as severe as we're all trying to make it. I don't think these games are suddenly going to suck, you know, just because they're going to be on PS4. Like, we've all played PS4 for 7 years. Like, it's not like the games are bad, dude. Like, you can make a good fucking game on a PlayStation 4. It's not like they're making a PS1 gameplay on PS5. Like, no, that's not what they're fucking doing, you know? So the jump will be big when they're taking full advantage of it. But right now, like, I don't know. It's disappointing to me on one level, but at the same time, I just, like you said, I get it too, because the industry is different from how it was even when the PS4 came out. You know, Sony's a company trying to grow their business, and you can't do that when you keep resetting your business every 7 years. You know, I think this is the future of this. You know, if we continue with console generations, I think this is going to be the way these console generations go from here on out.
Yeah.
You know, is that they're going to transition us, and there's going to be a lot of cross-platform for 2 or 3 years until we get to the point where PS4 needs to be phased out, or the previous console needs to be phased out. And Microsoft's doing the same thing, and I think Nintendo's about to do the same thing with the Switch Pro as well. I think this is just something we're going to have to accept, guys. Like, this is just the way it's going to be, and progress, unfortunately, is going to be slow as a result, because these companies, I mean, I can't even blame them, because like Montrell said, you can't just be like, oh, okay, we have 10 million PS5s. Let's make a game exclusively for PS5 and fuck the 120 million PS4s out in the wild. Like that doesn't really make sense from a business perspective. That seems really stupid, actually, you know, to just like forego that install base all of a sudden, because
Yep.
even if there are millions of people who want PlayStation 5, they can't get it. Like they can't get it. But then there's also millions of people who don't want PlayStation 5 right now. They don't think it's worth it. There's tons of influence out there telling you guys it's not worth it. You don't need to go crazy and try to buy one. You don't need to spend $1,000 on one. We don't feel that way. You shouldn't spend $1,000 on one, but if you can get one, I think you should. I think it's worth it. But we don't have a hot, like a loud voice in this space. So most people are hearing that and they probably agree. And they're probably just like, you know what? I'm not going to go through the effort of trolling Target every day or trolling Walmart or Best Buy or whatever. It's not worth the effort. And to be honest with you, I don't know if it is either. We need this stuff, me and Montrell, because we do a podcast and we need to talk about this shit, to inform people that listen to us. But for the layman, I don't know. If you don't hate PS4 as much as I did or Montrell did at the end there, then there's not a reason to upgrade for you.
Yeah,
really
exactly.
Yet.
Yep, I agree.
So yeah, I don't know. It's nuanced. I don't think we should be as mad at Sony as people are. I don't know. Like what these decisions they talked about this a lot. I guarantee you of that. I do. Like they really probably discussed this for months before they came to a decision on it, specifically with God of War and GT7, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, people are really upset about this. I mean, it brought up a whole nother conversation too about like 60 frames per second and people saying like, I don't want to play games if, they're not 60 frames per second. And it brought up a whole conversation of like, is wanting to play 60 frame per second games elitist? Is that an elitist entitled mindset? I don't want to get into that. I think that's a whole different episode, to be honest with you, because I can go for hours about both sides, to be honest with you. But it is an incredibly nuanced. Now, I saw a lot of people just like bagging on Sony for it. And y'all know me. Y'all know us, actually. The last 2 or 3 weeks, we were fucking going hard on Sony. I think y'all being unfair towards them. I do.
I think people are looking for something to be angry about.
Yeah. I don't think this is fair. I think people just really need to think about the situation. Yeah, they said one thing and now they're doing another. Welcome to the real world, bro. I mean,
yeah, I know. A lot of people are like screaming about false advertising. Like, calm down, guys. Yeah. They didn't like just because they're like, oh, we believe in generate. Like, that's not false advertising. I would argue like what Ubisoft did with Watch Dogs, that was false advertising. What CD Projekt did with Cyberpunk, that was false advertising. Like that is definitely an offense worth suing over. Yeah. This, no, sorry, no, it's just not. You're gonna get a great game either way. Like whether it's on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, these games are gonna be great because Sony, these studios that are making these games, they don't really make shit games. Like they don't make bad games. Like at worst, they're good.
They may make 2 different versions of the game. You may get a totally different experience from the PS4 version to the PS5 version. That
would be interesting.
Yeah,
that would be really interesting. Actually, I think that would piss people off. To be honest, because then because people like me, I'd want the whole experience, so I'd buy it on both.
Yeah.
But more stuff to come out of this interview. They did ask about PC real quick. How does PC fit in? And Herman Hulst pretty much confirmed that. I mean, he didn't confirm it specifically. He didn't like fully spell it out, but it's kind of implied in his comments that they're not really going to be doing day and date releases on PC for first party games, but they're going to continue releasing first party games on PC. Like that, you can expect to see more of them in the future. So they definitely think that's a new profit vector for them going forward. And then there were 2 more things. The last question was that they asked about Japan and how does Japan fit in because of what happened recently with Studio Japan kind of getting shut down and whatnot. And he had a really softball answer. and really tried to hit on Asobi, team Asobi that they are building up actually. And they're trying to make an Asobi team is making a game that they said is going to appeal to everyone. Like they're trying to make a game that appeals to everyone. So, but I did want to bring up here is that I actually do think, to Sony's credit, that they do value Japan as a region. It's just that I think Team Japan, like Japan Studio, wasn't working out, I guess, in the short term.
Okay. Yeah.
Because think about what they've been doing lately. They have been acquiring Japanese exclusives a lot recently, and like Square Enix in particular, they have Final Fantasy 16 as an exclusive. They have Final Fantasy 14 as a PC exclusive. That may just be coincidence, but they got Final Fantasy 7 Remake as an exclusive, and then Intergrade is also an exclusive, and then I think I said 16 already, right? So you've got 3 Final Fantasy games are exclusive to your console. That is fucking huge. Those games are huge, man. You know, so that is no joke. You know, so they're still trying to maintain that dominance in the Japanese space. You know, with Japanese games, I mean, I guess is what I mean specifically. So you know, I don't think they've abandoned the region. I don't think they're going to abandon the region. It's just they had some bad PR around specific things that made it look like they don't care about Japan, but I think they do. I think they definitely do. But I mean, how do you feel, Montrell?
Um, I have to evaluate more. I'm not too sure what Sony's intentions are with Japan. I understand why they're kind of backing away from Japan.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a total abandonment of ship. I don't think it's going to be like an Xbox situation.
Yeah, right. Well, the last thing that came out of this is that he confirmed that God of War got pushed to 2022, which, I mean, big surprise. We've been calling this on the show from the day that was announced. Literally, the day it was announced, I was like, no, this ain't coming out next year. Like, bullshit. So, you know, we called that, but Montreal, when they didn't, all they put was 2022 on the window, the release window, and Santa Monica came out and released a statement saying it was delayed as well. So this is fully confirmed. But do you think it'll hit 2022?
I think it will. I think it will.
You do? Okay. Early or late 2022?
Late 2022. I think it's going to be fall. It's definitely.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm thinking the same thing.
I think early September, right before
August,
Call of Duty.
September. Yeah.
Right before Call of Duty hits, it's going to hit around that time. I do want to give a shout out to Cyberpunk. The reason I want to give out the shout out to Cyberpunk is because I think they are the Jesus of gaming, and when I say that, or CD Projekt Red, when I say that is you know, Cyberpunk died so that we can get polished games and we can get, you know, apology statements from people on their own little, you know, their own little template. You know, we're sorry guys, then we have failed you, or you know that the expectation was this, and we're gonna try harder. We're getting polished games now.
Yeah.
So you know what, Cyberpunk, if you polish your game up, I'm gonna buy it because thank you.
I own it. when they give me my free PS5 upgrade, I'll play it.
Exactly.
That'll be the day.
That'll be the day. So
and they give me a free DLC expansion with it. You know.
So from this point forward, I'm taking a stand. I won't talk shit about Cyberpunk anymore. That's gonna be hard. Don't hold me to that. I will try though, because without what happened last year, we wouldn't have had it. Or that was this year, wasn't it? No, it was last year.
No, it's in December.
Okay. Yes. Without what happened last year, we would not be getting this whole change. And I think this is going to be a standard now. I think what happened then, companies can't just, especially during the pandemic, they can't handle that. It's just, they can't handle it. So that's all I want to do. That's the only sidebar I want to give. Okay.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on. E3 2021 starts in 9 days. A week from this Saturday is going to be the first E3. And we've got a bunch of conferences that have been announced. Digital, of course. They're not going to be in person. But we just wanted to run you down the schedule that we know of so far. So Ubisoft is going to be holding their conference June 12th, Saturday, June 12th, 3 p.m. Eastern time, 12 p.m. Pacific. Gearbox is going to be having a show on Saturday as well. There doesn't appear to be a time for it right now, but just watch out for that if you want to, you want to know more. Sunday, June 13th is Xbox and Bethesda going at 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. Pacific. Square Enix is the same day. They're going to be at 3:15 Eastern time, 12:15 Pacific. Then on Monday, June 14th, we've got Capcom and Take-Two. We'll be doing the showcases. We don't have specific times. It looks like, there's no specific times for those right now, but they have that they're going to be going on that date. Then on Tuesday, Nintendo will be going on the 15th, 12 p.m. Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And then Bandai Namco will also be going on the 15th, on Tuesday the 15th. And then way later, Thursday, July 22nd, so a month and a half later, EA will be going on July 22nd, which is a Thursday. So, look forward to that, I guess. But Montreal, are you excited? I mean, this is happening, dude. E3's back, dude.
I know I was a little salty before the podcast, but I am looking forward to it. I mean, this is a pretty meaty showcase. I think.
Yeah. This isn't everything either. There's going to be more.
Yeah, I was going to say. I think Capcom's supposed to be there and everything like that. Yep. So we don't even know what their schedule.
Well, Sony might be doing something too. Somewhere around these days. They're not going to be in the E3 proper.
Like state of play, right?
Yes. And then you mentioned before the show something's happening on the 9th. You know what it was? It's Jeff Keighley's summer game special thing where companies will be announcing shit there. I think Sony's going to be at that potentially, and not E3. So we actually, starting on the 9th and then through the 15th, we're going to have a shit ton of announcements. So hopefully they're spread out in such a way that we don't have to talk about them all in 2 weeks on the show 2 weeks from now. And we can get some in next week, but we'll see how that works out for us. Because right now, June 12th is Saturday. I don't know. We haven't talked about this. Like, I don't really want to push the show out, but I don't know. It almost feels like we should have like it's a different schedule for this, but I don't know. We'll think about it. We're probably gonna have a show next Friday, same as usual. To be honest with you guys. But the week after, I don't know if we'll release it a little early than normal. It depends. Me and Montreal probably need to talk about that off mic. So we'll let you guys know next week if that happens. But so yeah, this is exciting though, dude. I mean, we've talked about this extensively. I think E3. I like E3, and I've always said that I do enjoy E3 as an event. I like this time of year. I like the hype buildup. I like the leaks. I like it all. The whole thing. It's just a fun time for the video game industry. And I think last year there was a very just large, obvious void without it being around, and the game industry was not prepared to present shit to us without it.
Yeah. I will be the first to admit that I was wrong, because I know around 2018 we were talking about E3. I was just like really negative towards it, because I'm like, oh, it's the same shit, blah blah. And even before we started the podcast, I was like, it's gonna be the same like bullshit or whatever. Yeah. I was really like I guess burnt out of E3. But last year, the absence of E3 last year really jump started. Like, I'm like, oh, we actually need this. This is like this is an organ of gaming culture. Like, we need this.
Yeah, it is.
And last year was just, even though companies were unprepared, I still can't see how hard it is to prepare like a production of just like show up your games and stuff. But it was really boring last year. And I'm really looking forward to this year. I think everyone got their shit together, even though it's still probably just going to be a production of like streams. I think the streams are going to be a lot more better because it is E3 and they're not hosting their own stream.
Yeah, right. Okay. Let's move on, Montreal. Speaking of E3 leaks, we have one, and I don't know how exciting this is. It's like kind of sounds exciting, but I doubt I'm going to play this game. So we got 2 leaks from 2K that apparently a Marvel strategy game is coming from the makers of XCOM, and then that Gearbox is going to be announcing a Borderlands spin-off game that is potentially going to be starring Tiny Tina from Borderlands 2. Montreal, either of those excite you? Those concepts?
I feel so bad because I have both of these games on PC. The XCOM games, I should say, rather. I have the
Mm-hmm.
XCOM games on PC, and I know how good they are. I just
Yeah.
never been in the mood to play XCOM.
Same.
If
Same.
that
And you
makes sense.
think I would. You think I would.
Exactly.
You think I would. But for some reason I never tried it. I never tried it. And
And I
I
think
know
these
I
are on
would
the
like it,
Switch
but
now. And I
they are.
think
They're on the Switch. They're on
and I,
PS4. I think they're on Xbox. Yeah.
okay. And I think what the problem is, I think these are more mobile games to me. So I will play. think I'm going to rebuy them on the Switch, and I'm going to see if
Mm.
that's the thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
normally, I play my strategy games on mobile, not mobile the consoles or not mobile phones, but like mobile consoles or whatever,
Handhelds. Right.
handhelds. Yeah, where
Yeah.
I can take it anywhere and play it because it's one of those time consuming things where I can like pick up and go and stuff like that. I don't know. It's something about sitting in front of the computer for hours or something like that, or the console for hours doing a strategy game. Whereas when I'm playing on like the Game Boy Advance or this 3DS or the Switch, I can do it like on the go, and I can play it in my bedroom, and I can play it there for like hours. And like, yes, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
just getting far as fuck. So I think XCOM is one of those games where I need to just play it on the go.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and this specifically with this announcement, I mean, a Marvel XCOM game does sound really cool actually, because there is a board game called Marvel. Fuck, it's made by WizKids. God damn it, it's based off Mage Knight, which was like a like a fantasy style miniatures game.
Yeah.
I can't. Oh, HeroClix is what it's called. That's right, and it's all Marvel characters, and it's a board game. That's kind of what I think of when I think of this concept, like a Marvel strategy game in XCOM style. That is literally what I think of. That actually sounds pretty dope. I don't know. I might try this. I mean, I think it could be really fun, especially if you get to kind of make your own heroes too. In the way that XCOM has character building.
Yeah.
That could be really cool thing to have. Also, while also having the ability to use some of the iconic characters we know as well. That would be pretty sick, dude. So, and I'm sure you're going to fight, some of the villains and whatnot from Marvel, some of the Marvel properties as well. So that sounds appealing. I don't know, man. I might check it out. It depends. I hope we see this at 2K's conference or whatever they do. And we get to see some gameplay of it because that'd be cool. The Borderlands thing, Tiny Tina game, whatever, dude. I don't know. But I'm kind of off Borderlands right now. I'm not. Borderlands 3 is so disappointing. I don't really trust Gearbox at this point to make something fun. So, all right. Let's move on. Montreal, we got a couple more stories before we go today. We didn't hit this last week. I actually forgot about this and wanted to talk about it because this was a game that was highly interesting to me. So Dying Light 2, they had a gameplay trailer, and at the end of it, they gave a release date for December 7th, 2021. But Montreal and I have both watched the trailer. Montreal, what did you think of the trailer?
The trailer actually got me very hyped for the game. I was still on the fence of it. I mean, I wasn't on the fence for it, but I wasn't just as hyped. I know you were like super hyped for the game, but now I'm probably on the same level as you. The game looks really cool, has a lot of has additional nuance to it, like with the factions and stuff like that. And it looks like they really took their time to make this a true sequel to Dying Light 1. Because I was curious how they're going to follow up with Dying Light 1. I know they can do a lot of stuff, but this actually kind of blew me out the water as far as like what they're doing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. I don't know. I'm a little wary of this game right now because I don't want to get too hyped about it because I believe it's very obvious that this game was in severe development hell for a few years because this was announced back in like 2018, I think, dude. And the original Dying Light came out in 2015, so this is a significant gap. It's going to be about 7 years between the release of the first game and this game's release. So Techland had significant problems with this game, and we've reported on a few of them before that came out. But I'm just a little wary. I don't want to get too excited about it because I will say the game, from a graphical standpoint, did not look very good.
It still looked like a PS4 game.
It definitely did, and it looked like not a great one. to be honest. A lot of the buildings look really blobby and like not fully textured, to be honest with you. And I will say some of the movement, like a lot of the parkour looked really good. That definitely is exciting. And the faction stuff looks cool. It's just I don't know. There's something about this game. I'm just I'm a little wary of it right now. So there's some aspects of it that I was really like, I'm like, damn, that looks really fucking good, dude. A lot of the new zombie types look pretty cool. Definitely look terrifying. I think the atmosphere of this game at night, I was definitely getting that feeling of like, oh god, running around at night in this game is going to be horrifying. You know, you're going to be
Yeah,
getting chased by these absolutely fucking disgusting creatures. So in that regard, I think the game does look as good or better than the first one. And some of the choice stuff they didn't really get into, though, and how
yeah.
you can really shape your world.
That
Because
part I'm very wary of. That's the part I'm very
yeah,
wary of.
that could get real ugly real fast. Because they
Yeah,
tease at the end that you can turn into a zombie, maybe. Like, what happens there, you know?
yeah, exactly.
Um, like obviously that would mean you lose the game, right? I don't know, like, so we'll see more of it, I'm sure, as we get closer to release date. But in some ways I was excited, in some ways I wasn't. So I don't know. I'm definitely going to be checking this game out though, probably when it comes out. All right, Montreal, our final story of the week, Fantasy Star Online 2. We did tease this earlier. Got a release date globally. June 9th is going to be launching globally around the world. We are fucked, dude. We've got three MMOs that we want to play right now. Me and you, both of us. And because I'm going to download this game when it comes out next week. That's a week from yesterday. So that's next Wednesday. I am definitely downloading this game that night, probably. And checking it out because I want to know if it's good, like if it's going to be fun,
Yeah,
and if it is fun, oh boy. The summer of MMOs might be beginning for me at that moment. So what about you, man? Are you excited about this?
oh yeah. I saw the gameplay footage, and I don't know. It looks like the Fantasy Star that I had in my head when Fantasy Star
Yes.
Online 2 came out years ago.
Yes. In the
Um,
90s, right? Or
is or in the early
yeah,
2000s or
early
whatever.
2000s. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to this game, like really. So I don't know what else to say besides I'm looking forward to it. Like,
Yeah, fair enough, man. I don't know much to say either. I mean, we'll talk about it when, if and when we play it. So, I don't know if we'll have time before next week's episode, but if we do, we'll definitely touch on it. So, all right. Well, Montreal, we've got no questions this week. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we go?
oh, I think we already talked about one aspect. Let me check my notes here. I have one thing, and it's not good. It's only like maybe 10 minutes. We can talk on it, and then we can go. Let me bring it up here.
Montreal's trying to get you guys more content here before we go. This was we're gonna get out lean this week.
Okay. So, we already talked about the new game, old console.
Yeah.
So my thing is this though. Companies are doing these remasters. So Sega just re-released Virtual Fighter 5. It's a remaster of Virtual Fighter 5.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we just had EA and BioWare do Mass Effect Legendary
Yep.
Edition.
Last year we had Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah, and last year we had Xenoblade Chronicles. So I think Xenoblade is kind of omitted from this.
Okay.
But I would put Mass Effect in there, and I would put, even though it probably should be omitted, I don't think I think a lot of Mass Effect's feature depends on this Legendary Edition. In my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
Virtual Fighter 5, Sega literally said like, "Hey, this is just to see if people want to spark interest in this game." That's why we're releasing it. We know there's a thriving community there, but we want to see if this is worth the effort. Pretty much, they didn't say word for word if this is worth the effort, but they're just trying to say this is worth the effort for making a Virtual Fighter 6. And I don't know how I feel about companies doing remasters and then gauging whether they'll do greenlighting that franchise on that remaster. Because what if they remastered the game they remaster is bad? Like what if it's a bad version of that game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what if
or it's buggy,
or
or
it's yeah, it's
they picked a bad one. Like, what if Virtua Fighter 4 is better than 5?
exactly, yeah,
Should
or
they have
what
picked that one? Like, yeah,
exactly. And then what a lot of people are turned off by this just the name of remaster. I know a lot of people like that actually who just like, oh, it's a remaster. I'm not going to buy it, even though they never
yeah,
probably played that game before. You know
hmm
what I'm saying? So it's like I don't know how I feel about it. On one hand, I am glad they're remastering games. I just don't know how I feel about like say if they remaster F Zero GX, right? And Nintendo was like, "Well, we remastered it for the Switch. If you guys don't buy
yeah.
it, then we're not making another F Zero game."
I mean,
Like that's fucked.
they never say it though.
Yeah, but
They,
that's I think that's fucked up. I think you shouldn't. I miss the times where game. I understand game companies are a business and they need to make
yeah,
money for profit and things of that nature. I understand that. But
hmm
like, where's the originality? Where's the umph, the drive for
yeah,
these people to jumpstart a franchise? Like,
yeah,
I think about Shinobi, right, for the PS2.
hmm
That's totally different from the Shinobi that was on the fucking Genesis. It was a side scrolling game, a side scrolling like shooter slash beat 'em up game. On the
yeah,
Genesis, you just throw kunai and you occasionally melee characters that get too close. They turned it into this whole game mechanic surrounded by like an anime theme, the anime swordsman meme, where you sheath your sword and someone get cut in half and stuff. Like it's just 3D action character action game, and like
hmm
that's cool. Um, and that's totally different from what the games came from. So like how do you feel about that? Like there should be like we're talking about, for instance, right? F-Zero, for
hmm
instance. If the GX games did get remastered and F-Zero 64 got remastered,
hmm
we wouldn't get this. We most likely they're going to continue that formula of a racing game, but we wouldn't get the fucking Captain Falcon adventures. Like we wouldn't get that
hmm
shit. We wouldn't get that
hmm
spin off that a lot of actually I looked it up. A lot of people actually say something, some variation of that. Like I want an action game with like I'm being a bounty hunter for Captain Falcon. He's a bounty
or
hunter.
like a 2D platformer.
Yeah, 2D platformer or something like that. Like we're we won't get that kind of innovation from that franchise. And
Yeah.
how do you feel about? I feel like the remasters kind of limit people as far as that
Well,
vision of taking the
yeah,
franchise into a different
that
direction.
that kind of strategy by Sega too is extra slimy because you're trying to sell the remaster off of that too,
Yeah, yeah.
with no promise that you're actually going to follow through. They literally could have no intention of making a Virtua Fighter 6. They're just
See, I
trying to
didn't even
sell a
think about
remaster.
that. Yeah,
Like they literally could be lying to people. Like, and I wouldn't put it past most of these companies. And Nintendo's a good one to bring up though, because I will say generally, there are exceptions, Super Mario 3D All Stars being one of them. But when Nintendo's been re-releasing these Wii U games that they wanted to give a second life on the Switch, they've been doing something to most of them, like adding new content or something along those lines, and they're not calling them remasters either. And I like that approach better than strictly saying remaster,
yeah,
um, because that's kind of what Mass Effect did too, right? They didn't call the Mass Effect Legendary Edition remasters per se. They never really used that in their marketing. They called it Legendary Edition, and that's kind of what they called the game.
yeah,
Um, and they did do some stuff to the first game. They didn't do very much to the second game, which, to be frank with you, actually, I think they. I'm surprised at how little they did to Mass Effect 2 because there were definitely some things they could have done to it. But it so I don't know. I think we're in a unique place. I think because as we get further away, because like think about this, right? Mass Effect Legendary Edition, it's kind of the best it's ever going to be now. Like I mean,
yeah,
there's more they could do to it. They could do a total remake for Mass Effect 1, and they could make some of the changes that I was thinking about for Mass Effect 2, and I'm sure there's stuff for 3 they could do too. But like, put all that aside, they're not going to do that stuff. So let's just say this is kind of the definitive version of Mass Effect now, the Mass Effect trilogy.
yeah,
Like, they're not really going to be able to do a remaster of this in 10 years because what are they going to do to it? Like, they're not going to change that much. Gaming's probably not going to change that much in the next 10 years in that regard, in terms of controls and things like that. Like, I just don't think there's like the further we get away from PS2 and PS3, the less viable remasters are going to be. Like getting remasters of PS4 games makes no fucking sense. Like there's very few games you could remaster on the PS4 that would be justified.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense when you're bringing something old forward, especially if it's something that's unplayable on anything modern, unless you have the old console that it was on. So I don't have a problem with remasters in that regard. I do think there's just I think there's a lot of them though that like I don't understand. Like I think Sega definitely is a company where it's like, Virtua Fighter 5. Are there a ton of people chomping at the bit for that particular remaster? I don't know.
Uh,
I mean, maybe,
yeah, that's what I
but
said. I didn't know there was an audience for Virtual Fighter anymore.
yeah,
But apparently there are. Like people are like, "Yo, would you anybody got Virtual Fighter?" So I mean, I didn't
yeah,
know about it. But like I don't I don't have an issue with remasters. So my I guess my whole question is like, how do you feel about companies using that as a catalyst to jumpstart a certain franchise? Say like we got the Mega Man Zero collection, right?
yeah. Right. I know what you're getting at. Like
Yes,
they're using these collections of the Mega Man to gauge if they should make a new Mega Man game, which they did do.
exactly.
They made Mega Man 11, and it didn't do super well. So Mega Man may be dead again. Who knows?
But
But
is that a fault of the
um,
remasters or is that a fault of the devs not trying hard
no,
to
it's not a fault. It's not a dude. A failure of a video game, of any video game, generally to me ultimately falls on the publisher. They're the ones who released it in whatever state it's in, and if people don't find that fun or appealing, that's on them. They have to make a product that's fun. It's not like why would the fans be culpable for that, in any particular way. I mean, I do say sometimes that our actions have consequences, and they absolutely do. Like if we tell devs that these mechanics are great when they're not, they're going to think they're great and they're going to put them in whatever the next game is, and that game's not going to be good either.
yeah.
I talk about Breath of the Wild all the time. I don't want people giving Nintendo this false idea that that game is fucking perfect in every way, because it's not. There's plenty of ways they can make it better, but take that out though. From a base level, you make a game, you're selling it to people, you are offering a product to them, and you have to make it appealing and fun for it to sell. If that's like at a base level, that's what the transaction is. So if you can't do that, it's your fault. Like it's not really anyone else's fault, like, and I don't know. So to me, I think it's like a cowardly way to try to see if it's going to be, that's like their best way to see if it's something is market viable in the modern day. I think that's the thing. I think a lot of these devs with these old IPs and these publishers with old IPs, they're afraid to just jump into the deep end with these games and make a new entry in something that they don't think people will like, or that people will find interesting, or that a lot of people will want to buy,
And that's
and
my biggest issue. I
yeah,
understand like there's a bottom
they're not
line.
willing to take that risk.
Yeah, and I understand there's a bottom line. I understand there's profit, there's
Yeah.
people jobs at risk, but I feel like we got some of the very best games from people taking those risks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I feel like Mass Effect was one of those risks. Like this
Oh,
is
definitely.
very ambitious to have different choices and the money that went into the voice acting alone. Like from every NPC that you talk to, you have multiple choices, multiple things to say. Like
Yeah.
that's ambition, and we would have never got that if
Well,
it
with how
wasn't
much voice acting is in the game too, that's
e-
super ambitious. No,
exactly,
most games hadn't done that at that point.
exactly. So, so I mean, who to say that we won't turn another franchise that's already established? Like I'll even say like Mother, for instance, right? That game
Hmm.
can be the next Persona if it came out. If Nintendo just gives someone a chance to do it, like give someone a
Yeah.
chance to do it, try to revamp it, do it in their own style or whatever. And the story's already good. I mean, from what I hear, the story's fucking amazing. So they have the groundwork there for it. Just make Mother 4 or make
Hmm.
or try to take Mother in a different
Yeah.
direction. You
I
know what I'm
don't know
saying?
why. I don't know what that particular IP. I don't know why Nintendo hasn't done anything with it. in more recent times. That one I don't get. And this is, I think Nintendo's the perfect company to kind of talk about with relation to this question, because they play it safe more than almost anybody.
Yes, they do.
Like
Super
they
safe.
don't, dude. They don't go away from Mario. They don't go away from Zelda. Even Metroid, as much as that franchise isn't a seller for them, they still don't go away from it though. They're like comfortable with it. They don't. I like. It's weird. Like they seem really averse to new things a lot of the time. And
But
then
but that's
I
the
mean, they will try new things like Arms and Splatoon sometimes, but you
well,
know,
even like revitalizing the franchise. I'm talking about like long established franchises. I think Metro is a perfect example of that. You took a
yeah,
2D side scrolling game that's in vein of Castlevania and you turned it into a first person shooter and it worked.
yeah,
People
yeah,
love Metroid Prime. There are people who never even played their original Metroid games or went back and played the original Metroid games because they love Metroid Prime so much. So it's like I feel like that should be the ambition for a lot of developers. It's like we just got away from that. Like we didn't need a
yeah.
remaster. We didn't need Zero Mission. We didn't need Fusion to say, "Hey, Nintendo, Metroid Prime." They just Retro Studios came to them and was like, "Yo, we got this vision. Here it is. We want you to use
Yeah.
your existing
Well,
franchise."
this is like that question we got asked a couple of weeks ago, is like take a game IP and put it in a genre that it doesn't usually fit in. Like, what would you do? And
Yeah,
that's kind of my point, or that's kind of what you're getting at, I think, is that there's a lack of ambition with some of these IPs. Like Square Enix with Kingdom Hearts, as much as there's so many games within that franchise, it's funny how like narrow their view of what a Kingdom Hearts game can be,
yeah,
because I know I'm saying that, and we've got Chain of Memories, which was like a handheld game that was card based, and then you've got
you
this
got
like
Union
Melody of
Cross.
Memories,
Yeah,
yeah, Union Cross and stuff. It's just the stuff they choose to do with it, I think, is weird. Like the genres they choose to go to with Kingdom Hearts just are fucking weird to me. They don't do anything like I don't like, dude, like, because when I was explaining my idea for a strategy game to you with that, it's like, I think it's a great idea. Like, I mean, I understand strategy games don't have a wide appeal, but it's like, fuck you, Square Enix makes strategy games. They're not afraid to make those. It's like, I feel like a Kingdom Hearts strategy game would sell like crazy good, and it would bring a lot of appeal to a genre that is generally not a high seller. And I think a lot of people would get into those games based off that. And it's like Square's not there's not a lot of ambition there, I think. And I think that's why Kingdom Hearts 3 was such a disappointment to me, because that game wasn't an evolution of the formula of Kingdom Hearts in any real way. Like
hmm
it looked good, and but it just, I don't know, like it played worse than 2. Like, and that game came out like 13 years before. It's like,
yep.
huh? Like, huh? Like, what? Like, Kingdom Hearts 2 came out on a PS2. That should never happen. That shouldn't be possible. So I think that's kind of, I understand what you're getting at, and I agree with you. Like, I think Square, like, that's why I got frustrated with everybody kind of like heaping praise on Kingdom Hearts 3, because it's like, to me, the franchise didn't really go forward in any way. To be honest, it kind of went backwards in a lot of ways, and it was just like not. It just wasn't. It wasn't as good as it should have been, for
Yeah.
for how long they worked on it, and how long it had been in development and how long we'd waited for it. So I yeah, I don't know. I mean, we got to hold these companies to account, but I don't know how we do that without buying things, without just boycotting things straight up. It's like, I guess we just got to talk about it, and it's like Virtua Fighter 5. I don't
I just think that's a lot
like
of
you're
pressure to
almost
put.
you're almost like calling out a fan base and saying you're like putting the game on ransom. It's like
It,
you're like holding it hostage.
and that
It's
that was
like,
my biggest problem with it. Like it's
yeah,
like you're putting
yeah.
all the earnest of the Virtual Fighter franchise on Virtual Fighter 5 remastered. And it's like just make a new game. Just
Old
make
game is old. Like,
yeah,
it might not sell because it's old and no one wants to play
exactly.
that shit.
Exactly.
Like, it might have nothing to do with Virtua Fighter. And I think you're getting at a point that is very important to talk about with the video game industry, is that I think publishers, the people that are high up in a lot of these publishers, just don't understand the industry at a base level. because they will, like Deus Ex is a good example where
Oh yeah,
like
that's a great example.
Square Enix like ruins Mankind Divided because they decided to make that game a microtransaction fucking machine, you know, and it's like they just didn't understand what that game was, and then the game comes out and it tanks, and they're like, oh, Deus Ex just isn't appealing, I guess, and it's like,
No,
no,
no.
your marketing campaign ruined the game, like no one wanted to play it because of the way you marketed the fucking game, like, but no, we're gonna put Deus Ex on ice because the game didn't do well. It's like you fucking, like, you guys fucking kidding me? Like Deus Ex Mankind Divided is one of the best games I've ever played. You know, it's like it's so, and it's like you don't know that as somebody who works for Square Enix. You're like what the fuck are you talking about? You know, so it's like, and then I'm sure they're gonna re-release Deus Ex Human
Oh,
Revolution as
you
a
know it.
remaster at
You
some
know
point,
it. You know
and
they're
then
gonna
they're
do it.
gonna base that game's sales on the next Deus Ex having a chance
And
to
I
be
just
made.
think that's
You know,
so unfair.
and that's so stupid.
Yeah, because a lot of people already played it, and what if there are people who already have the game and they're like, I don't need to remaster because I already have it. Like,
Yeah,
and that's totally
right.
viable. That's a totally legitimate excuse not to buy a remaster. I already have the game. I don't want to play it. Like, I already
Yeah.
have it. So
Yeah, because actually, Eidos is going to be announcing something at Square's conference, so it could be a new Deus Ex game. And if it isn't, I'm going to be very upset, Montreal. I'm just telling you that right fucking now, because it's like it's a franchise that has a lot of history in games and is very beloved and is kind of a cult hit and has been done dirty, I feel like, by its publisher multiple times, and it's like they blame shit that they shouldn't be blaming for why those games don't do well, you know. And I don't, so yeah, I'm with you.
yeah. I didn't mean to
I
talk
don't like the way
y'all's
Sega's
ear
handling
off.
that Virtua Fighter thing. I
Yeah,
definitely
and
don't.
that's what sparked that conversation because I think a lot of companies actually do that on the side. I think Sega
Yeah.
was honestly probably the first company just to honestly come out and say that without really saying it, but they said it.
Overt. Yeah, being
Yeah,
overt about it.
yeah, and
Because BioWare wasn't doing that with Mass Effect though. That's the thing is,
that's
like, I mean, we know Mass Effect
yeah,
5's in development.
we know Mass
You
Effect
know,
5's coming out, and I think that's only because EA knows there's still a huge fan base for Mass Effect. But
right?
let's
But that's EA. EA's doing what Square Enix isn't. EA recognizes how much resonance Mass Effect as an IP has, and they greenlit a game in that franchise without needing, with the last game being an absolute fucking disaster, by the way, with Andromeda. So like their executives were like, you know what? If we do this right, we can have a huge hit on our hands with a new Mass Effect game. You know,
yeah,
even though the last one was a complete flop, but
yep,
they probably analyzed it honestly and were like, you know what though? It's our fault and BioWare's fault that Mass Effect Andromeda was what it was. You know, it's not the fact that Mass Effect isn't appealing as an IP. It's that we fucked the game up. You know,
yeah,
they probably
exactly.
had that conversation and were really honest with themselves about it. And as such, we're like, yeah, you know what? Let's do this right. We're going to greenlight a Mass Effect game, make it fucking awesome, you know?
Yep.
And hopefully that's what we get, you know? So, yeah,
All right.
I
Well,
don't know.
that's all I want to
I
talk
think it's just
about.
about honesty, man. I
I would
know.
like to know some other people's thoughts too. Like if y'all can send
Yeah.
questions. I saw some of y'all tweeting about it a little bit, but a lot of people aren't Virtual Fighter fans. So like, tell me how y'all
Mhm.
feel about remasters. Like all the crust of a franchise riding on the coats of a remaster. Like, tell me how do y'all feel about that? Because I really want to know other people's opinions about this.
Yeah. I mean, it is literally them holding the game hostage. They're holding their own franchise hostage and like ransoming it out to their fan base. Like, that's so fucked up, dude. So yeah, I mean, yeah, let us know. I agree with Montreal. I'd love to hear what people think about that. You know, if they agree with us or not. But yeah, Montreal. Anything else you want to talk about before we go today?
Nope, that's it.
You got another 20-minute conversation you wanna just dump on us?
Nah, I'm
here?
hungry, bro. I'm hungry now.
Okay, let's go. We gotta go play some Final Fantasy XIV, grind through this main story quest. All right, guys. If you like this episode, please like the episode, review the show, and subscribe to the show on whatever feed you are listening to it on. And please share it with your friends. Please. We would love to have more conversations with people. If you'd like to interact with either of us on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap for the Hokage for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I am at Thundernut01, and the show is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to send us questions, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to playerstake01@gmail.com. And if you send them to us on Twitter, please send it to the players take handle. That is how we track them. Don't send them to us individually. They will probably get lost that way, especially in Montrell's box, because he gets a lot more notifications than I do. All right, next week we'll probably have some announcements to talk about. Maybe Final Fantasy Star Online 2. More Final Fantasy XIV thoughts. So look forward to all that. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.